Hey everybody, welcome back to I Know a Guy. If you're new here, my name's Anthony. I'm a business profit advocate. On this show, we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals, and just people doing cool things. For example, today we're talking with Rachel Lee. She's an artist, designer, and brand stylist that specializes in 1 week brand transformations for entrepreneurs who want to build their personal brand that authentically reflects who they are in the online space. How you doing today, Rachel?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to hear about it. It's not something I've ever really thought too much about outside of, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. So definitely a lot of us out there in that boat. So where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Vancouver, Canada, on the other side of the border from you.
Yep, yep. Are you a lifelong Canadian or you recently moved there?
Lifelong Canadian, born and raised on the West Coast. It's
Mhm.
not as cold as it is in Toronto right now. At least we don't have snow yet, but we are expecting snow sometime this season.
Oh, so we beat you with snow. We got our first snow a couple days ago. It's already gone, but so
Oh
awesome,
no.
awesome. What's
Yeah.
what's there to do up there? I've never made it that far north. So, if somebody's new to the area, what do you recommend they do?
Ooh, people usually come to Vancouver to see the nature. We have amazing forests and amazing mountains. One of the things that at least I hear from all my American friends, the first stop that they visit when they come to visit Vancouver is Whistler. It's about 2 hours drive north of here. And there are basically these giant mountains that people spend all the time snowing, ski boarding. So if you like snow sports, that is like the place to go. There's also like Whistler Village, which is just a nice place to be. Like there's good food, the atmosphere is amazing. They've got this amazing lodge that makes you feel like you're living in like a really high end cabin, like that sort of cozy winter holiday feel. So definitely recommend visiting Whistler. Also, we do have the ocean here. I don't recommend jumping into it because it's like freaking cold, but it is beautiful to walk along the seawall in downtown Vancouver if you do like to see the ocean, Pacific Ocean.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, no, definitely not jumping in. That's a little too much, but awesome, awesome.
Oh,
So,
yes.
so what can you tell us about what you do?
Yes, I like to say that I specialize in 1 week brand transformations, specifically for people who are looking to build their personal brand. And I know that personal branding, it might be a bit of a confusing term. I know when I say branding, people just think about like, oh, Nike or Apple, like the logos of big companies. That's usually what people think of when I say the word branding. When it comes to personal branding, I like to simplify it and just say it's the art of representing yourself in a way that makes you happy and that people understand on the internet. And if I say it like that, everybody has a personal brand. I don't care if you're a business owner, I don't care if you're just a kid in high school, you are online. We can't get away from living in this reality. And it's so important that you are intentional about what you put out there because people are going to look at that and they're going to make a bunch of assumptions. And if you know that's going to happen anyway, you might as well be a little more intentional about what you put on there. So then at least you can be in control of the impression that you're giving off, the way that people interact with you. That, of course, like in the business sense, that is extremely important because that makes or breaks your ability to attract the right people into your world. It's about bringing in clients and it's about feeling good when you network and present yourself on the internet. So, all of those things basically fall underneath the umbrella of what I do. Specifically, I have a background in design. A lot of people call me the Photoshop wizard. So, they mostly come to me when it comes to figuring out what I call their online wardrobe. So when it comes to the visuals and graphics that you use to present yourself, it's kind of like the online version of your best suit. When you walk into a networking event, you want to feel good and put together. I make the online equivalent of that. So when people visit your social profiles and your website, they're like, damn, I like this person. I want to talk to them. They know not only do they know what they're doing, I like the vibe. I feel like we're going to get along. I trust them. And that are those are all of the pieces that I love helping my clients with, especially when it comes to really showcasing their personality in terms of their social presence, so that when people get onto those profiles, they can feel you and get a sense of what you're about. Okay, getting
Okay.
off my soapbox.
No, you're good. Get right back up there. How did you get
Mm.
started? What got you to become the Photoshop queen? What got you on this path?
Well, I can say that I was an accidental entrepreneur. Growing up, I was the art kid. I knew that I wanted to make things for a living, and I followed Honestly, in hindsight, a pretty straightforward career path. Art kid, went to art school. I studied design. I eventually landed myself a full-time job as a graphic designer at a local marketing company. And that was supposed to be my dream job. I was supposed to stop there, work there for 40 years and retire. Needless to say, I think most people find themselves in this situation where they realize that their dream job doesn't make them happy. And I found myself in that position at the age of 24. Um, Recent grad, I thought I knew what I wanted, but when I actually landed that position, I realized that it wasn't just the act of making things every day that made me happy. Because yes, I got to push pixels 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. It was just me and the computer. But what I didn't realize was that I really liked talking to people about what it is that they needed support with creating. I realized that my favorite thing to do is talking to somebody, coming to understand the thing that lives inside their head that they're trying to put out into the world but don't know how, and then helping them transform that or translate that into something that you can actually tangibly see and feel. I really like that part of the process, but I didn't get to talk to people in my job. And the longer that I stayed in it, I could feel my creative spirit withering inside of me. The longer that I stayed, and I knew that I had to get out. So it was during that period when I started freelancing on the side of my full time job just to see what I liked. I was 24 at that time. As a human being, I was green. Also, as a business owner, I was green. I had no idea what I was doing. So it's kind of like, going through a buffet line for the very first time. You try a little bit of every dish because you don't know what you're going to like, right? That was literally what that beginning process was for me. Freelance on the side, tried a little bit of everything, realized that I liked it a heck of a lot more than my full-time job. So then I ended up quitting my job cold turkey at the start of 2019 and dived headfirst into doing this thing called business full time without realizing what that actually meant. So the experience of the first year of business, I tell you, it was like jumping into the deep end of a pool without knowing how to swim. Oh God, it was terrible. But there was a lot of learning involved. And in that first year, amidst all of the experimentation, that was when I discovered and fell in love with branding. So that's kind of like the trailhead of the journey. And there were a lot of twists and turns, but I started off doing just visual branding for small business owners. That was kind of where I started. It eventually, it turned into personal branding because I got to a point with my own personal journey where I started to feel uncomfortable with the way that I was presenting myself on the internet. I was putting myself out there as, semi-corporate, semi-formal, professional. When I say professional, we know what that means. It's a little sterile, but it does the job. But the problem is I wasn't attracting the types of clients that I wanted to work with. I didn't feel really confident when I presented myself on the internet because I felt like I was lying to people. I was like, this is like my business, but this doesn't feel like me. And I really, really wanted to show people, like, no, this is what I'm like. Like, I am a creative person. I'm fun. I'm a little quirky, a little nerdy, but this is who I am. And I wanted to have that more at the forefront. So I ended up actually burning my business brand to the ground a few years in and revamping it in underneath the umbrella of my personal brand. And I did the brave and scary thing and just I was like, all right, world, here's who I am. I don't go to my calls in like a suit and tie. I show up in cat headphones and a hoodie. Like this is the brand. I am chill. I've got a giant Pikachu in my backdrop. Like this is a part of it. And if you don't like it, get out of the way. Like I wanted to just be upfront about that. And I was scared at first when I did this. I was at the risk of scaring everyone off, but it turns out that I actually ended up attracting so many more of the right people. Like every single one of the clients that I work with, I absolutely love. I feel like I'm just playing when I show up to work because I get to work on so many cool brands that actually match my vibe because I was upfront about just letting people know this is who I am, this is what I do. If you can't play with me, that's okay. There's other people who can play ball with you. But if I'm the right fit for you, we're going to have so much fun. And that's basically like it was a personal transformation at first. But then when I realized that these are the results that it can get you, I was like, I want to do this for other people too, because I see all my friends, they're networking their asses off. They're trying to put themselves out there, but no one is seeing them because you can't tell how cool they are when you look at their online presence. So that's basically how I started in the world of personal branding. I dived in at first, didn't know that it was a thing, found out that like, oh shit, like this is actually something amazing and incredible. I want to help other people with it. And now I just get to say that that's what I do. So, I mean, I mostly work with like people who are the face of their business, like coaches, consultants, or creative entrepreneurs. I still do work with business brands, but I'd say across the board, all of them are wanting to infuse a heck of a lot more personality into the way that they present themselves online. I'd say that's like the bigger umbrella that ties everything together. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me and my journey.
No, that's awesome. I liked what you're saying. You thought you had your dream job, and that's the thing about entrepreneurship. You realize at some point, everybody does, that you're not going to find your dream job. It doesn't exist. You kind of got to make it. It's
Yeah,
not going to be exactly like what you want if you're the one that's taking orders. So that's awesome. And then having your
absolutely.
your own rebrand in the middle, where you're very obvious by looking at your background what your brand is, right? Anybody that's going to relate and say, "Hey, I recognize that. I recognize that." First off, you're going to have a conversation outside of just business. So that's a little bit of the
Oh,
know like
yes.
trust. Your personality's out there. People see it. They like that. So that's awesome. And like you said, being a creative,
Yeah,
the last thing you want to do is be stuffy all day. So talk to people that
exactly.
appreciate it. That's awesome. I really like that. My next question was
Yeah.
going to be, what piece of advice would you give people starting out on their entrepreneur journey? But you gave us like five there, so I don't know if you have another one or what the main one would be.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, honestly, as I think back and reflect on my journey, I didn't have a lot of guidance in the first few years. It was literally like the Wild West where I looked around at everyone else that looked like they knew what they were doing. And I was like, I'm going to copy that and I'm going to copy that. And I ended up with this like Frankenstein monster of a business with scrounged up pieces of information. In hindsight, I wish that I worked with a business coach who was actually be able to show me the ropes. But also, I also did invest heavily in my business in the earlier years. I invested in all sorts of help. And I mean, even though it is good to invest in your business and get help in the areas where you just don't know what you're doing, it is so, so important to ask for help from the right people because if you listen to the advice from the wrong people, it could take you in a direction that isn't where you actually want to go. And in hindsight, for me, that's what I ended up doing. I could basically say I over invested in a lot of resources that weren't the right fit for me, or maybe weren't the right fit for me at my specific stage in my journey. And I bled through a lot of my financial resources. And it put a lot of strain on me in ways that it really affected the decision making that I had for my business in the months following. So when it comes to especially if you're newer in the game of business, make sure that you're investing in the right people. And I'd say the most important thing is take a look at the person that you're trusting to guide you, whether it's like a coach, maybe they're the like a mentor, maybe they've got a suite of courses. Take a look at them and the type of business that they have, and take a look at the business that you have and be like, hey, is this the model that I want to be following? Do they have a business that is very similar to mine? If the answer is yes, then yeah, heck yes, listen to their advice because they have already walked the path. They're going to give you the information that is actually relevant to your business. But I would never listen, never again listen to the advice of someone who has a business model that's completely different from my own just because they don't understand all of the additional bells and whistles that go underneath my business. And the advice that they give is going to be specific to their type of business. So this is just newbie in hindsight. I burned through $130,000 worth of investment into learning for my business, just for perspective. So it is important to be intentional and careful about who you listen to. Don't be afraid of asking for help, but listen to the right people. That's what I do have to say.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. If you're looking at somebody like, oh, they're successful, but they're not the kind of successful that you want, because success means something different to everybody. If they're not where
Yeah,
you want to be, why follow their path, right? Don't do it. You're going to end up where they're at if you follow
exactly.
it, or worse, you won't end up anywhere, because you don't stick to it.
Exactly.
So that's awesome. I love that advice. So what about clients? What does your average avatar, your client look like? Who do you tend to work best with?
Mm. Yeah, I personally prefer working with people who are the face of their business. So I'd say entrepreneurs with personal brands. So if you're thinking like coaches, consultants, creative entrepreneurs, a lot of them are kind of like solo service providers. And the work that they might do, it might not be completely unique. Like there are a million and one business coaches out there, just for example. And the main differentiating factor is who you are, what your background is, your story, your experience, your ability to have clients look at you and go, oh my God, me too, right? Like that is the pull that gets people saying yes to you. So I love working with those types of people, but more specifically, I love working together with people who just have this deep desire to infuse more of their personality into the way they're showing up online. They're tired of censoring themselves out of their own content just to meet this unspoken professional standard, or out of fear that people won't work with them if they show up in any different way. They're kind of like the closet creatives. They're like, I'm secretly really fun and really cool, but I don't want to put it out there into the world because I'm scared of whatever repercussions might come my way if I decide to do that. I love working together with those people because not only are you doing your clients a disservice by hiding that, they want to know that about you. You're also shooting yourself in the foot because it just feels really shitty networking when you're like, hi, this is me, but it's only 30% of me. Like, you don't ever fully put yourself out there. And that's a disservice to you and your business. It just doesn't feel good. So I love working together with people who are at that stage of like, like there's so much that I want to say. There's so much that I want to put out there. I just don't know how to do it. And whatever I try to do for myself looks like a 5-year-old designed it, and it's just not doing my business justice. I love working together with those types of people. So whether you're a business brand or a personal brand, if you're kind of feeling that, then I would love to work together with you.
I love that because everybody knows know like trust. You gotta know like trust somebody if you're gonna work with them. But we kind of
Yeah.
overlook the like part. How can somebody like you if they don't know who you are or what hobbies, what your passions are? So yeah, why would you hide that bit away? That's a really good point. I haven't really thought about because there's things in
Mhm.
my life that I nerd out about that I should be probably a little bit more open with.
Yeah.
A little bit about me just for people that listen that might get just a hint. My cat's named Kaladin. If you understand that reference, we're gonna be friends. So
Oh
anyway.
my gosh.
Other than
So
that,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, what about power partners? Who are people that are in similar industries that you might be able to synergize well with, helping the same kind of clients?
Yes, my best friends, I like to say, are website designers and or brand messaging strategists or marketing consultants. So I like to say that a lot of the work that I do, I work at a very specific point in the marketing journey where I'm that weirdo that likes to mostly just work with the visuals and create the guidelines that get passed off to website designers to actually build the darn website. That gets passed off to social media managers so they actually have something to work with for building out the client's online presence. I don't really like dealing with the strategy or words as much. So I feel like I'm kind of like the cream in the middle of the Oreo cookie. I love meeting people who are the cookie sides of the Oreo cookie. So the people who come before me would be like the marketing strategists, the fractional CMOs, the brand messaging strategists, the people who help my clients with understanding the big picture of here's where we're going, here's what we're trying to communicate, here's the words that you use to communicate that. And then I like to take all of that, turn it into something that they can tangibly see, and then passing it off to a website designer and a social media manager so that they can go forth and apply. So I'm kind of like that cream in the middle of the Oreo cookie sandwich. And I love meeting the people who are the cookies on either side of the process.
Okay, awesome. So as an entrepreneur and somebody that meets a lot of entrepreneurs, branding is something that we probably don't think about as much as we should. Maybe a lot of us are comfortable with it. Maybe we've had it for a while, haven't thought about it because it works. How do I know if I need a brand transformation? How does somebody know that?
Mm. It's the same feeling as when, if we all think back to when we were teenagers and we were going through puberty, and when you were going through that growth spurt, you know, that feeling where you wake up 2 weeks later and you're like, oh crap, my pants don't fit me anymore. Like my ankles are showing tight around the shoulders, like the clothes just don't fit. And you look kind of dorky when you try to walk around with your old clothes, and you don't feel so good about it. That is the same feeling as when you're looking at your own branding and you're like, this doesn't feel like me anymore. I don't feel good wearing this. And I don't feel like this is a good representation of me, the value I bring to the table. And or I just don't like this anymore. I just want something different. I think it's a very much, it's less of how do things look on the outside. I'm sure even from a designer's perspective, there's a lot of people who come to me and they're like, hey, Rachel, can you take a look at my brand and let me know if there's anything that needs fixing? And I understand where that question is coming from, but oftentimes I have to reflect back to them. And I'm like, because I don't know what lives in your head and what you're trying to communicate, I can't just take a look at your brand and say if something needs to change. Because if you don't think there's anything wrong with it, then there's a chance that it's actually the right fit, right? Like it's only when you get to this point of discomfort where you look at your stuff and you're just like, this is okay, but it could be better, or like I don't like the way this looks or feels anymore, or I just want something different. Like I feel like this only says a part of what I want to say about me, but not the full picture. Like I want more. When you're kind of at that stage of feeling that, then that's the right time. More specifically, if you find that the way that your brand is right now, if it's affecting your confidence levels in a marketing or sales situation, or even when you're networking, when you start to feel that weird pit in your stomach when you send your links to people and you're like, hey, take a look, but don't look too far because it's outdated and I'm not very happy with it. When you start to get that feeling, and or when you're taking a look at the people that you are attracting when it comes to prospects and clients, and you're looking at that pool and you're like, this isn't great. I'm not ecstatic and over the moon with the types of people that I'm attracting. And or if you're not attracting anyone at all, those are also signs that you might want to work on your branding, because I won't say that it's like the thing that's going to get you clients, but it sure as heck is going to make you more visible to the right ones. So I do have to put a disclaimer there. Some people, they invest in their branding and they're like, am I going to get clients right away? I'm like, you're going to have to do a little bit of legwork, of course. You're going to have to put yourself out there. The brand supports with that. It's kind of like having a sticky website. You're going to have to be responsible for driving people to the website. You got to put your link out there, get people to click on it. But my job is to make it sticky. So the moment somebody lands on there, they're like, oh my God, you're so cool. And then they go down the rabbit hole. They go through all your links, they binge all your content. My job is to do that for you. So there's still a little bit of legwork, but I definitely say if your confidence with your marketing and sales is tanking because you're not happy with the way your brand looks, and or if you're attracting the wrong types of clients or not attracting clients at all, definitely I'd say you should be considering to work on your brand.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. You're gonna remember somebody's personality way more than you're gonna remember whatever else they were talking about. So you're definitely gonna stand
Yeah.
out at least. So awesome. I like that. Is there
Yeah.
anything that I missed, I failed to ask that you wanted to add?
Yes, one thing that I do want to mention, especially when it comes to branding, people have this tendency to have an outside in approach where they take a look at everyone else in their industry and ask the question, what are they doing? Right? Like it's very natural. Do your market research and then based on that, come up with something for yourself that kind of positions you in that one gap that isn't filled, that might work from a business branding perspective, but more from a personal branding perspective, that's the same as looking at everyone else around you and being like, based on the people around me, who do I want to be? If we say it like that, it sounds absurd because that's not how being a person works. That's actually how a lot of people tend to approach, especially personal branding. What I actually recommend is to have an inside out approach and be like, all right, let's just start with you. If it was just you in a silo, like no other human beings around you, who are you? And what do you want to say about yourself? If we disregard any repercussions, if we disregard what other people have to say about that, like just you yourself, what do you want to say about yourself? And how can we capture that in a way that is exciting and fun and easy for people to see? And that is the best place to start with your personal branding because there's only one you. So that will inherently be unique, and you don't have to worry about what the heck other people are doing. That's specifically for personal branding. Business branding, it's still similar, but we do have to do market research. We do have to take a look at what's around you and just make sure we're not like too similar to a lot of the competitors in your industry. But it still very much is an inside out approach where it's like, let's talk about what is special about you and your business, because that is the thing that makes you stand out. And then let's figure out a creative way to visually capture and communicate that. So I'd say inside out approach is always better when it comes to branding, because it's just about visually representing your identity, and nobody but you is going to have the answers for that, not anyone else in your industry.
That's awesome. And there's a lot to that a lot of people are going to have questions about because I know I do. How do people get
Yeah.
a hold of you if they have those?
I am all over the internet, but specifically, my favorite place to hang out is Instagram. Please find me on there. That's where all the eye candy lives. But I am also on LinkedIn. That's where I have some of the most amazing conversations with people. So I believe the links will be available after this conversation. And if you want to learn more about what I do, all of the information is also on my website.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'll be sure to put everything in the description so they don't have to hunt for it. So,
Thank
other than
you.
that, I absolutely, if you guys are listening, I absolutely recommend you reach out to Rachel. She is exactly the same in a one-on-one as she is in this interview. Super high energy. Take a look at her background. It's there. She leads with her personality, and it's awesome. So, I absolutely recommend you reaching out to her. If you're a little bit more shy and you prefer an introduction, ask me. I'm more than happy to do. Have you met Rachel? And do that three-way introduction for you. Other than that, if anybody would like to be interviewed, feel free to reach out to me. I'll have my link tree in the description as well. So book a time. Love to have a conversation with you. But again, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your experience. Let's all get out there and meet some more people. All right.
Heck yes. Thank you so much for having me on. It was great chatting with you today.
My pleasure.